The mechanics of how it works is kind of the same, isn't it?
For sure.
Oh, that's amazing though. Good for you. I should have introed to Ange that we tend to do like kind of a 10-minute check-in at the beginning. So if people have wins from the week or things that they just want to share, every week we have a different topic. So last week was accountability, and there was posts from all different people last week. So that was kind of cool. And I just know big things are happening for so many other people. So kudos to you, Jen. And who else? One of your biggest. Oh, that's amazing, Marissa. Awesome. Yeah, so much good momentum. Us too on our team. We've topped our highest volume ever by, quite a bit, most enrollments that we've ever had. And we're not done. Like we've got 3 days left, and I feel like it could be another really good 3 days. Okay, let's have some more golden nuggets. Who else has some wins for the week? And it doesn't have to be major, right? It could be that you like reached out to somebody that you'd been nervous to do, or put some posts up that you've been nervous about. Is there any, just feel free to unmute yourself if you have anything you want to share with us. This is the part I love the most.
Hi. So I'm working really hard to help my team out to help one girl reach elite. So she did, which was really good this month. And I'm working on to hopefully she can reach elite, and then hopefully I can reach silver. So I got, like you say, 3 days left, and anything can happen.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I feel like this is the time where it could be really easy to look in your back office and say it's not going to happen, but making that commitment to just working it all the way until 11:59 on November 30th. And if you hit that rank, amazing, and if you don't, amazing. Because something I was chatting about with one of my, she's my magic healer, I call her, but I saw her this week, and I was talking about this, and I said, I booked this appointment because I had this big rank goal in mind, and I knew that I sort of had to see you at this point so that I could open things up and just like clear the way for the last few days. And I'm not sure that rank goal is going to happen. And she's like, okay, but think about your month, right? And with any goal is you set your goal here, and you work towards that, and you decide it's going to happen, and you work. And even if you don't make it here, even if you get here, you still look back and you're like, whoa, look how high I went, right? Look what I did in this month. And so whether you make it here or not is not really the point, right? I feel like for a lot of us, the reason we kind of want to make this happen is for leadership, but this is only 1 month. There's still 2 more months to do that. And so it's really exciting. So I feel like for all of you, just keep going for another 2-3 days. I don't even know how many. Is it 2 more? Maybe it's 3 more. 3 more. No problem. Yeah. 3 more. That's a cakewalk. And just, right till the very last minute, and then celebrate what you did do, and take a little bit of time in early December to reflect on, and literally write down, journal or think about or sit with, all of the amazing things that you did this month, because you decided to. And that's really what the difference is. So this is accountability just summed up right there, right? It's making that decision, and it's showing up, and it's doing the work, and then celebrating all of the wins. So Julie's saying it's your biggest team's month too. You didn't think the BOGO helped so much. Yeah. It was so good. Yeah, and the team is like, I couldn't believe when you posted that million mark. I'm like, I tell people about that, and they're like on 1 month. That's 1 month of volume. I'm like,
Yeah, it's unreal. And just so you guys understand how huge this is, a lot of individuals in network marketing will say that they're millionaires, and that's because at some point in the year they sold $1 million in sales in the year. And it has nothing to do with like their personal income or whatever. But in this on our team, you guys, like this is actually insane to wrap your head around. We have sold about $1 million worth of oils this month. If you just take PV straight up to oils, right? So it actually blows my mind. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. And what we learned from the BOGO is that there's a whole group of people who, for whatever reason, haven't found the value in essential oils yet, and it was a sale that drew them in, and we know what's going to happen for all those people. right? Like they're going to really get the value. They're going to really understand the power of these oils, and it's going to start a really beautiful journey for them that they maybe wouldn't have ever started if there wasn't a sale. So it takes all kinds of, you know, different marketing tactics to reach people. And the next group of people, we're going to have to do different things than we've done for the early adopters. You guys have heard me mention this before, but this is called evolution, you know, of a brand. And all of us here on our team, we're approaching 20,000 people in less than 3 years. We're all very early adopters. You know, we didn't necessarily start using the oils because they were cheap. And actually most of us started using them when they were really expensive. You know, we had no other options. So it's interesting. It's a very exciting, there's just like, I cannot believe the growth for all of you. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And also it's been really fun to see the creativity happening, you know, people just posting all different types of classes and different ways of reaching people. And I think that's really fun too. And I think part of it is because we can do a little more right now online, but also we're just learning as we go and watching from one another. And that's part of the team culture that's so fantastic within what you've created, Angie, and within the greater Whole Fit team. So I love that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to segue into talking about self-care, and my intro to it is about what this month has looked like for me. So you can tell I'm like starting to feel it a little bit. Part of it is kids bringing stuff home from school, but so in any given, you know, push month where we have a big goal in mind and we're setting our sights on something and working, like we're really hustling, right? I try to not say working hard because it really is a hustle. It's a choice. It takes a toll in some areas. And I know that it's something we're all trying to figure out is how to find harmony within that. And so when you have a busy month planned, you know, what do you need to do to keep yourself feeling good and still supporting those around you? So this month, you know, for me, this has been a real test month because it's been a hustle month for me. And in my life too, there's been a lot of people needing me. And so it's been a lot of giving. And the biggest lesson for me is, okay, what do I need to do for me to keep me strong, to keep me going so that I can do that and I can maintain that and it's not draining me. And I had a few days, like if you follow me, you'll see that there were some days where I was not winning, and that's okay. And I'll talk about that, and I'll talk about what I do to kind of get back on track. But this is something I'm learning all the time, and I'm definitely progressing and getting better at. And I think it's important to teach our teams as well. So I've got some friends who are doing Diamond Club, and they shared a little bit about what that looks like and some of the dialogue around what it means to hustle to that degree. And there are those who frame it as, you know, right from day one, I set boundaries on it. And yes, I was hustling, but I had sort of non-negotiables. And so it's been fine. It's been okay. And then there are others who they're killing themselves to do it. And they're having a panic and anxiety. And this is probably, I don't know, but probably trickling into their teams as well. And so if those are the stories that we're hearing, that to work hard, to, work towards a rank, to have those busy months, it's going to kill you. You're going to be crying. You're going to be having anxiety. You know, your family's going to fall apart. No one's going to do it. Right. And so that's not necessarily what we want to be communicating. So I think the better that we can, as leaders, get at taking care of ourselves and knowing all of the different tools that we need to fill ourselves up, then we're passing that on to our teams, and that can only be a good thing. And so honestly, there's nobody better to chat with us about that than Ange, because 20,000 people on the team. So there's 19,999 are saying, how does she do it all? How does she fit it all in? How does she, maintain that harmony? Because I think balance is a myth. But how do you make all of that work? So I think it's so timely too to talk about self-care, because we're coming towards the end of Gold Rush. And I know for many of us, it has been another thing to be thinking about and considering and adding to our plates. So we'll talk about filling ourselves back up and then moving forward, because we're just warming up, right? This is kind of the beginning, I think. Yeah.
Take it away.
Take it away. That was I should have done like this.
Katie Cates, I just want to say you are amazing. And I really I honor you and love you for bringing this collective together. You're a prime example of somebody who this wasn't easy to pull together. This and you know, having to be the one setting the tone for a group who's going through a lot of shifts personally, and to keep that vibe high when maybe, you know, inside you've had days which were really tough, and you know, like you mentioned, where your self-care maybe wasn't right on point where you needed it to be to operate at that high vibe level for this group. But I'm really proud of you, and I want you to know I see it, and I see it in you, and I know where you're going, girl.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to screen share for like 10 minutes tonight, but I'd love to just have more conversation than anything. I want to open up by drawing a card for the night from my Miracles Now deck. So this is for you guys. Write it at the top of your notepads on the topic of self-care tonight. I'm going to present this topic in a way you might not have heard it presented before, because self-care actually isn't just about self-care. Okay, so we're gonna dive into the root cause of self-care. But before we do, here's our message for tonight. Are we ready? My favorite way to draw a card from a deck. I don't know if you guys use decks. I shuffled them 3 times, and then I grabbed the card on the top. Yes, I am a little woo-woo. That's right. Okay, here we go. I choose to reinterpret my fears with a more loving perspective. Do you guys feel me right now? What better card could we draw for this topic? I choose to reinterpret my fears with a more loving perspective. It's actually one of the things I was going to talk about tonight. So, you know, this topic, I'm going to share my screen as I talk for right now, and then we'll hop back in the group. This topic is so important. And let me just come to my main slide. So as I was thinking about what this group, what you guys really need, you know, out of this topic tonight, it's really understanding the reason that it's not happening most often. Because for a lot of people, for a lot of amateurs think that self-care is just about, you know, being selfish and having this list, you know, that you complete from the spa every day. And that you're fully supported by everyone in your life, and you just bounce from shopping mall to spa to, you know, every indulgent thing on the planet. And that's not what self-care really is. Self-care is evident when somebody is pouring goodness into our world. There are indications of self-care when it's in check. And I have a slide up on the screen right now, and I want you to check in with how this image makes you feel. You know, many of us are linked to devices throughout the day. We obviously know what this means. This shows up on my phone every day by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know what's up with my phone, but clearly I need to get a new phone because I charge it all night and then it's already on almost empty by the afternoon. And when I see this, it makes me anxious. I know that I need to go plug it in. I'm sure many of you can kind of tap into that feeling throughout the day when you know you have stuff to do and all of a sudden you don't have the means to do it. And so what I want you to understand is that your body works the exact same way. It needs a recharge session or moments throughout the day to take a break and to top up. And you know, we don't think twice about doing this for our devices, but we will often push ourselves past the brink. We will ask of ourselves more than what, you know, we physically could from something like a phone. And we push ourselves all the time. So this topic of self-care, it can take a lot of different avenues. And to be honest tonight, I want you to leave with what your top 3 self-care commitments are. But self-care, or taking a step back, hitting the pause button and recharging our batteries, it can look very different for every single person, right? For some people, that's being more present with our kids. For some, it's just experiencing pleasure, maybe actually having that dessert and having no guilt about it and just feeling, you know, all the goodness that comes with a little bit of soul food. For some of us, it's slowing down. It's actually recognizing that we are trying to take on way too much in our life. It's actually impossible what we're trying to take on. And so we need to slow that pace down. For other people, it might be showing ourselves more of what we wish other people showed us. I'm going to dig into that in a moment, but, you know, being more patient with ourselves and being kinder. I'm going to just come back to the Zoom room and put you guys on mute for a second. So we've got some background noise here.
I just did it.
Oh,
and
perfect. Thank you.
One
babe.
person. Yeah.
Okay, super. So what we need to all realize, we all have goals within our business, goals that we know are going to create a different kind of life for ourselves and for our family. And this is such an important conversation to be having right now for each of us, regardless of where we are in our business, because we know that big things are around the corner. We're not in a stagnant situation like a lot of people tend to find themselves in. So our ability to evolve in our self-management and our self-care is fundamental to our growth. So one word I want to really zero in on here is the word evolve and what that actually means. Because you have to be prepared when you're in a business, when you're in growth, you have to know that what you're doing today around your self-care is not going to work 6 months down the road when your business has grown and when you have more people to take care of. Exponentially, you know, that's going to keep growing. So what you're doing today will have to evolve. And so we have to become okay with this flow of checking in with ourselves and asking ourselves what's working and what's not working, and be prepared to shift that. If we're not prepared to evolve, we have to be prepared to stay where we are. So it's being mindful when we're getting these indications in our life that it's just not working anymore, okay? And the root cause of self-care is actually self-management. I understand you guys talked last week about accountability, right? Yeah. So accountability, when you really drill it down, the biggest struggle we have is being accountable to ourselves. We can, you know, we hire people all the time to make us accountable. We hire coaches, we hire personal trainers. We find ourselves going back to that 9-to-5 corporate box because within that, someone else was telling us what to do. And the trickiest thing when it comes to self-care is actually a result of us not respecting ourselves enough and managing ourselves well enough to have the appropriate amount of self-care in place. So here's the truth about why we actually don't take good care of ourselves. When I think about all the things and all the reasons, it really comes down to a couple. And you might not have all of these, you might just have one. Some of us have all of these. So number one, we actually don't believe we're worth it. And this is a big one. I want, when I read these out, I want you to do you feel something in your heart? You know, we actually don't believe we're worth taking care of ourselves. And a lot of women feel this way. And this shows up initially in how we take care of ourselves, but it's going to show up in a bigger way when we start to make money. Because when we start throwing money at a belief that we're not worth it, it gets pretty ugly. We really start to revert and block our success, and we'll do things to actually block our success. We will purposely not focus on work that we know is going to move our business forward because we're really scared of what that success means. Another belief people have is that we're actually not allowed to do self-care in the way we'd like to because that's too indulgent. And we're taught this. This is often passed down through our parents. So I don't know about you guys. I want you to think about your mothers. Often we tend to imitate what we saw our mothers do growing up. And for me, in my home, my parents were very busy people. My dad, he was the pastor of a super large church. Literally, he was the kind of man, everything he did like all out, successfully, boldly. He was a very charismatic person. You know, he was always busy, up at 5 in the morning, starting his day. Like, he had this self-care routine dialed in. My mom, on the other hand, she lived for her kids. She lived to have the house always running like a machine, and she did everything to make sure my dad could have this perfect self-care routine pinned down. And so my mom, I grew up watching my mom constantly cleaning. We'd be sitting to have supper and she was folding laundry at the table. Or I'd be talking to her about something that was on my heart after school and she'd be wiping a counter down and not looking at me in the eye as I'd be talking. And these are the kind of things that they were like cemented in myself as I was growing up, and they really came up for me when I became a mom. And I realized, sure enough, I was starting to do the same things that my mother did when I was a kid. And so it's something that we have to acknowledge is likely there in our psyche. We have to realize that it's there. It's okay that it's there. But just because that's what our mothers did doesn't mean we have to wear that belief. We don't have to take that on. We have to understand that at the core, taking good care of ourselves puts us in a much better position to take care of our kids and our teams and our husbands or partners. Without it, we're faking. You know, we're not pouring from an authentic place. We're actually really depleted. And we're trying to be all these things to everybody that need us, but we're actually so empty. So this is something that I personally had to really work on. And it's still there. It's still there. You know, what I find I get upset at with myself is how I need to work at being present with my kids, you know, and I actually, sometimes I have to apply strategies around this. Sometimes I have to actually calendar it in my calendar, where I'm not going to do anything right now, but just sit and talk with the kids. And I know it sounds ridiculous to a lot of you, but because this is one of my ways that I'm betraying myself by not being present, I have to set up a system to create that more. And I touched on this a little bit already, but we are often scared about what might happen when we do take good care of ourselves. Are we going to get attention that we're not ready for? Are we going to have success in our business that we're not ready for? We start to come up against, you know, why aren't we taking good care of ourselves? Why are we wanting to stay where we are and be stuck? And it could be something within some of those things like success and attention. But I love this little message by Chris Carr on the screen. How would you nurture her if you were the mother of little you? That's a good thing to ask yourself, because we find as parents, I know many of you in the group are, there are things that we would never do or give our kids that we will do any day of the week to ourselves. And I find that when I'm having a hard time showing myself that grace, I come back to this thought, you know, what would I do if I was talking to the little child version of me right now, who was feeling the way I'm feeling as an adult? How would I guide her? I know, you know, when we're in it, when we're like really in it, in the chaos, we probably feel like this image on the screen. Like we just want to duck and we do not want to be seen. We don't want to talk to anybody. Just everybody go away, please. How many of you felt like this before? Where it's just like, I cannot take it anymore. I'm giving, and I am empty. I'm shutting her down. So this is actually, we need to be grateful for these moments, because our self-care solutions are found in our chaos. So when we are feeling like we don't know where to start, a good place to start is looking at what's not working, and notice how we are interacting with people throughout our day, and when are we depleted, and we can start to wrap our head around what's draining us and what's actually filling up our cup. Have you ever wished someone close to you treated you better or different? And I love how people in our external world are such a mirror for ourselves, right? People teach us where we need to grow through our interactions with them. And when we are feeling like we wish somebody would do X, Y, or Z for us, like let's say we're feeling like, this is a common one. I know a lot of you guys will relate to this. So we're brand new in our doTERRA business. We're a mom. Let's say we have 2 kids. Husband works full time. And we're building doTERRA in our nap times. And husband comes home from work, and the house is a little messy because during the nap time, you chose to contact 10 people instead of cleaning the kitchen. He comes home from work, and so begins a little bit of an argument, because he doesn't like the state of the home. He feels like because you're a stay-at-home mom, you should have the house looking perfect. That's your job. And you know, yeah, this little oil hobby is great and everything, but it's not paying the bills. So why are you doing it? And this kind of, you know, conversation happens in a lot of homes. And what we learn from this experience is that what we're feeling is resentment. We're feeling unsupported, right? We feel like our husband doesn't understand us and he should be supporting us and loving us more as we begin this new venture. But what if we actually shifted our perspective and realized, I need to support myself better. I don't need my husband to understand this right now, because I know his language will be, you know, 6 months down the road when I'm actually earning enough money to hire somebody to come clean the house. That will impress him, right? So we start to set our eyes on like, what What do I need to be doing right now to feel more supported in this moment where I'm feeling a lack of support from people around me? So this is where self-care starts to take that shift of, you know, it's not about going to the spa. It's not about, you know, sitting and eating a piece of chocolate cake or having a bath every single night. Sorry, one second. Oh, my devices are ringing. That's gotta go. So this can be a great place to start, is with a feeling that we have around some of the core people in our life and what we wish that they were doing for us, and asking ourselves, how can I do that for myself in a bigger and better way? And you know, when you come to the support conversation, maybe that's finding a mom in your neighborhood that you could do tradesies with the kids, you know, where you're actually trading for time, because that's a form of support for yourself. But that comes back to the conversation of, am I worth it, right? Do I feel like what I'm doing with my time is going to be worth doing that? Absolutely. But it's a self-belief root that we need to address sometimes. Our relationship with ourselves sets the tone for every other relationship we have. And I know this to be true. I know a lot of you have experienced this, that when we start to love ourselves more and fill our own cup with what we're needing, we start to pour that out on a bigger level to the people that mean the most to us, right? So all of a sudden, husband who wasn't feeling supportive to our business starts to see his wife be very fulfilled and is happier in the home and taking care of him in a bigger and better way. Then he starts to support her more because he wants more of that. He wants more of her like that. So it really starts with us, and that's a huge form of self-care for ourselves. So one of the practices that I have, and I don't like look at a calendar and think, okay, it's September 1st and fall's here, it's time to shift my routine. But it just naturally starts to feel stagnant about every 4 months. I don't know if you guys can relate to that feeling where, you know, I love how the seasons do guide us to ask ourselves, you know, what's working and what's not, where can we shift in how we're moving our body and the foods we're eating and the people that we're spending our time with, and what are we reading and learning? Is it working for us right now? And is it going to work to support our goals for the next 3 months? So this is important to check in on. I think this is a great time for us all to do that as we come up to the start of a new year. It has freshness to it, right? So this is a good place to start, because when you're feeling stagnant, your innovation and creativity dies. So ask yourself some of these questions. You know, who have you been spending a lot of time with? Sometimes this is going to be people on your team. Sometimes this is going to be people that are, you know, draining you, and you have a heart to help them. You really want this for them, but they're just not growing the way they should be. And this is sometimes where we need to say, you know, this investment of my time is not making sense right now. It doesn't mean that you quit on them. It doesn't mean that you're not there for them. But what it means is they need to take accountability of their own self-care and growth to be able to match the efforts in your conversation when you're giving your time to them. So there's a lot of ways we can shift up where we're giving our time. And that's what we're going to talk about in a few minutes, how we actually cultivate a routine of self-care. So there are some real clear indications of somebody who has a self-care commitment nailed down, okay? So I want you to ask yourself, you know, where you kind of rate in these different areas. So somebody who has a good self-care routine, they often show up on a daily basis in our world and add value. They're the people that we look at and we're like, how do they do it? They seem like they're always happy. They seem like they've got all the time in the world. They're healthy, all that, you know, all that. That only happens because that person has an impeccable routine of self-care in place. Because really the goal is, I mean, we all want to be able to be in a position where we can serve the world with our gifts and to do that in an authentic way, not the way anyone else has done it, because no one's going to do it like you, but in a way that feels really good for us, because we're all human beings. We want to be there for each other in a real and authentic way, but we cannot do that. We cannot do that if we're lying or not coming from a fuller cup place, okay? We can't. Some people really try to do that, and it works for a little bit, but to be honest, people will detect that pretty quick. People can tell when somebody has a self-care commitment in place. Here's another easy one. How clean is your car? Now, I meet people all the time who like my office, for example, is not super clean, but this is my zone. This is where I get messy with my ideas. It has a purpose here, but when I go to my kitchen or my car and it's a disaster, that's a clear indication to me that I've taken too much on. Because a clean car often speaks to somebody who respects himself enough to take a moment to tidy up before they get out of the car. It's just like a little one, right? But it's true. How about, appointments or meetings? Are you the person who's consistently late? Are you 3 to 5 minutes late for everything you do? Somebody who's on time for appointments or a little bit early, there's somebody who respects themselves first and foremost enough, and therefore they respect the person that they're meeting. So that's self-care dialed in the truest sense. How about this? You do what you say you're going to do. So you're a dependable person in your group or to your team. When you say you're going to do something, when you sample a customer and you let them know you're going to check in next Wednesday to see what they love the most. When you are somebody who loves yourself and has good self-care in place, you do that because you want to come from a place of taking great care of that person. When we're avoiding people, when we're wanting to stick our head in the sand, when we, every day we get up with the best plans and we don't get any of it done because we're doing everything that everyone else wants us to do, at the root of that, we don't love ourselves enough to actually do the things. How about your home? How would you describe the feeling in your home? Does it have a peaceful, joyful feel to it? Would your kids describe it as that? Or might they describe it as frenetic and busy and everyone's always passing ships in the night? So you want to really think about what is the feeling around you? How would people describe, what it feels like to meet up with you for a coffee? There's a lot of these indications of how we can sense where we're at. And then just a fun one. This is it for me. When my eyebrows have grown in, my heels look like the desert, it's time for me to change things up and evolve. Key indicators. Okay, so I want us all to get our piece of paper out, and I want you to think about, there's probably been a couple of things that have visited you throughout the last 10 minutes that you would like to implement a system to make happen. So if you're clear on what these are, I want you to pick a max of 3 per day. And I'll just throw out some ideas if any of you are feeling a little bit stuck here, but ultimately, these are the 3 commitments that you need to make for yourself for this current season to infuse your life with life force. So is that moving your body to the point of a sweat every day? Maybe it's just 20 minutes. Is that drinking 3 to 4 liters of pure water every day? Is that remembering to use your oils as part of a nice AM ritual and PM ritual? And if so, what does that look like? Is it taking a half an hour after dinner every single day to just dance with your kids in the kitchen? Is it picking up that book that's been sitting next to your bed and ending your day with that book instead of checking out what everyone's doing on Facebook? Is it yoga? Is it a daily walk, no matter what the weather, just because you love to breathe the fresh air? So again, these are up to 3 max, and this is important. Don't do more than 3, because it's really tempting when we're feeling chaotic to want to change everything and just, throw it all out and start over and just take on the world. So I want you to really be gentle with yourself here. And if you can only honestly commit to 1 thing per day, make it 1 thing that makes you feel so good just thinking about it. I would love for 2 of you to unmute yourselves and share your up to 3 self-care commitments you're going to make starting tomorrow.
Can I start?
Please.
Okay, so this was like such a no-brainer because this always happens, always. I'll get into a routine of being really good with fitness, and I feel so good, and I feel like I'm progressing, and I start to notice changes, and so then I stop. And there's obviously some deep psychology going on there. I think part of it has to do with the Gay Hendricks talks about our upper limit. I think that's a piece of it, but I think there's more to it than that. So that's my number one, is an exercising daily. And even if I literally can only fit in 5 minutes, I'm still doing it. But I'm going to aim for more than that because it has to happen. It's a must for me. And the number two is just cleaning up my eating a little bit more. So whenever I do that, I tune into our eat clean, get lean style of eating. And that works so well for me. I love it. So it's just really clean food. It's veganish, lots of water, and just watching, sugars and starchy carbs and all of those things that don't make me feel really great, especially going into this season. And this third is get it's part of my language, my goddamn systems figured out, because that's like one area that sucks so much of my energy, is that I still have yet to have really solid systems. And I know it affects a lot of different things. It trickles into how I follow up with people, and it trickles into a lot of the things you had on the last slide in terms of, getting posts up when I say I'm going to, or responding to people. That's an area where I feel like I'm not at a 10 or even a 9. And I want to be. So that's number 3 that I have to work on every single day. So
okay, stay with me for a sec, Kate. I want to go to the next slide with you. Okay. So what needs to happen in order for your 3 commitments to happen? So your daily workouts, what needs to happen in order for that to happen?
Other things have to not happen. So I need to let something go and not get it done. And be okay with that. And I need to prioritize a time. So I need to choose, it's either going to be like first thing in the morning, or if I take a break around noon, and that it happens then when I do a little bit of dinner prep or whatever, but there needs to be some sort of routine for when it happens so that it's scheduled in for that one. And I need to also celebrate every day that I do it, because one of the things is like the challenge with that is I think about where I want to be. And then I go to do my first workout and I'm like, holy smokes, I've let I'm out of shape. It's going to be so hard. And so I need to stop that dialogue, tune into the people who inspire me, who I follow, like Marissa here, who just kills it all the time. And just celebrate that I did it today. And so, okay, today I did it. I feel good. Great. Moving on till tomorrow. And then in terms of eating, I know how to do it. It's just, it's a little bit more prep, a little bit more planning, and choosing a little more wisely. But the Sunday meal planning is key, because the more I have in the fridge, it's easy to make choices when it's there for me. The systems one, I don't know, that one's a little bit harder. I don't know where to start, because I feel like there's a few key ones that I need to nail down. So I think it's a matter of maybe setting just picking one that I want to get good at, and then working away on that every single day, and maybe having an end date in mind. So by Friday at the latest, I want to have a really good system for tracking contacts or something like that.
Love it. What is the heaviest drain on your energy in your business?
The lack of having a system.
But so what solution are you looking for? What kind of system solution?
Yeah. The heaviest one is probably contacts. So if I have a conversation with someone, or somebody plants a seed that they're interested, they need to be plugged into somewhere so that I can go back and I know when to follow up with them. And I know how many times I've followed up, because I have that ish. It's in all different places and it's written on papers. And so then it gets forgotten, and I try to keep track in my head, but it trickles into my business, because there probably were months that I didn't follow up enough, and that could have been an enrollment, and it wasn't. So,
okay.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just trying to trickle it down. One of the things I loved you said about the workouts was being okay with not finishing something else. to make it happen. Yeah. And I just want to share, this is an area that I really wanted to step up about 6 months ago. I felt like, because here's the thing, like this business becomes like so great, right? It's so fun what we do. We get to help people every day with their health, and we get to help them remove blocks in their business. And it's the best. But that could actually, you could fill 24 hours a day doing that and love it. But then it's like these other things you want to get done, right? So every day I set a timer on my calendar at 12 o'clock. I literally drop everything and go put my workout clothes on and go downstairs and work out. Like even if I'm in the middle of sending someone an email, I honor the code, the promise I made to myself.
Wow.
Okay. So sometimes I'm like, crap, it's 11:59. And I'm like, you know, send, gotta go. So you just have to really commit to, I love what you said there. And I think that's the reason some of these things aren't happening, is because you're always finding something else to do, because there's always going to be a billion things, you guys. A billion.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And it's with like, I have more time now than I have ever had for this, but, I think, I want to read, I'm not opening the chat because it's recording. And I feel like every time I open the chat that it'll show up in the recording. So I'll have to go through later to read the comments, but, what was I saying? Oh no, it's right out of my head.
Back. While you're thinking of it, did anybody else have any self-care commitments that maybe were different from Kate's?
Hi.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so 3 of the things, so I wrote down a few more, but definitely I think I need to really focus on taking my supplements daily. Yesterday I was at this vendor event and I didn't even take my supplements. I had them with me, didn't even take them. I don't know why, but I didn't. And last night I was like exhausted, like by 7 o'clock, I was exhausted. So I really have to stay focused on taking those daily. Also definitely following up on people from my vendor events. And then I teach a lot of yoga. So taking time to do my own yoga practice.
Love those. Which one do I want to pick apart? The supplements is a really interesting one. You could do a case study on yourself, the days that you don't take supplements. Because it's not sexy at all. There's no instant gratification from taking supplements. So it really challenges the way we live today. We want instant. It's why people are so drawn to the oils, is they know putting peppermint on their temples feels way higher vibe than popping a Tylenol. And it's instant. But supplements, it's a different thing. So the supplements, it's actually you investing in yourself. So this sometimes trickles into that like personal development realm almost. Like, it's actually planning to be healthy. Reading the book now that feels like, it's way too out there for us. And by the end of the book, we realize we've grown so much since page 1. It's just like supplements to me they just really help us check in with our intention for health and our intention for growth. So that's a great one. It's definitely a common one. With supplements, it's trigger habits. Actually, with any goal, you need a trigger habit. This is why I kept coming back to Kate. Well, what needs to happen in order for that to happen? So in order for the workout to happen, do you need to have the shoes right outside of your office? Do you need to have the workout clothes laid out in your bed? Do you need to have a playlist ready to fire up that gets you excited? Like there's trigger habits we need until our discipline becomes the habit. Habit is always the goal, because habit means you're not thinking about it anymore. So for a lot of people who have a routine of taking supplements, like Denise said, the easiest trigger is that they're on the kitchen table where they sit and have their lunch every day, right? But where we miss them is when the trigger is gone, where we are on the road one day at lunch and we forget to bring them. So this is what I want you guys to all think of, because it's one thing to call it out. It's a whole other thing to actually have success in these areas. And what that requires is planning. You need to know like what is causing you to not do these 3 things that your heart is telling you need to be doing, and figure out the plan around the trigger first, because then the habit will happen. So another thing to do, this is kind of the last point I wanted to leave off on. Now this isn't my calendar, but mine actually looks quite similar to this one. I love to color code. I want you guys to print off a month that you have coming up. And if you're not using something electronic, then just look at your current daytime or whatever system you're using. If you're not using a system, that's probably the biggest reason you're feeling chaotic. So look at whatever system you're looking in, look at where you gave your time. So your time is your biggest currency. And I just want to share something with you guys, just with this group. This really hit me 2 months ago. I actually had my highest month ever in doTERRA. It was a month where I was doing 5 or 6 calls a day with people. I felt like I was running a call center. My workouts didn't happen. I was tired and cranky with my family. I was obsessed with my brand and my team and my vision that month, that's fine. You'll go through times when that's the case. But I ended the month, I was just like, all the money in the world cannot buy me what I want to have with my kids. And I'm at the point now in my business where I would purchase slots of time if somebody was selling them. Just because I'm at a point now where it stops being about the money for me about 1.5 years ago. Because you get to a point, like initially as you're growing doTERRA, it's all about the money. Because the money is what's going to afford you the freedom to leave the job or to retire your husband. That's a huge goal for people. And in the beginning, you're investing so much of your time and you're making nothing. And then about 6 months in, your time and your money starts to become even, right? You start to think, this is cool. I'm actually putting in half of what I used to put into my 40-hour-a-week job, and I'm making just as much. And you start to feel like, okay, my buy-in is huge right now. I want to grow this. I want to mentor my team. And then all of a sudden you start actually spending less time in your business, but you start making more money. You're like, okay, I'm like all in. This is like the best business in the world. I'm so glad I didn't quit at Elite when I was making no money. And then one day the money is just ridiculous. Okay. It's there. It's going to happen for all of you that don't quit on yourself. Okay. The money becomes ridiculous and the time starts to become crucial. So I had a month 2 months ago where I actually earned $1,200 every hour. Every hour of the day. Even while I was sleeping, I was earning $1,200 an hour. And this was a month where I missed a lot of things with my kids, where I realized my potential this month. I was like, okay, and I was doing actually about 25 hours a week. So I was still within my, like I only work 9 to 3. I try to really work it when the kids aren't home. But what happened was I was doing calls all day long, and then I still had my vision that was asking me to do things for my brand, for my team, things that I wanted to get going and launching. And so I was doing that around making supper, and at night when my husband would be sitting with them and snuggling and reading books, I was pouring into my brand. And so I realized my potential, but I share this with you because I want you to realize that what you're feeling right now will continue to be there. And it's always going to take you looking at the situation and asking yourself as a leader of your life, what's working and what's not. And so I made a huge decision in my business to really shift the way we're mentoring as a team, the way I was mentoring my front line, the way we're mentoring people, because I stepped back from the business and I realized every really successful person in doTERRA actually never had a mentor. They never had a call with somebody guiding them, and sometimes what I realized was we get stuck thinking like this is how it needs to be. And as you bring more people into your business, this just becomes massive. Like I have a really great problem. I have this problem of like incredible people building their business and they're in growth. I don't get on the phone with anybody to have an emotional crutch session ever. These are women who are like, they're killing it. But I don't have enough time in the day anymore. And so I started to realize, like, how could I actually empower them as leaders so that they don't feel like they actually need a call anymore, where they're actually like following their own truth, their own insight in their business. And last month was kind of the first month I saw the fruition of that. And I've seen this like elevation in our leaders where they just like, Kate even mentioned it, one of you mentioned it on the beginning of the call, there's been this like feeling of like innovation and creativity and trying new things with classes. And I'm not saying it's because I changed the way I'm approaching calls, because it takes months before things like that trickle down. And I'm not saying it might even, maybe it's not even connected, but I know that I felt more free, and I know my leaders felt more free. And so I just share that because when I'm feeling stuck, I look at everything I've committed to and I ask myself, is this a $1,200 task? Sometimes it's not about the money. Sometimes it's knowing, I'm choosing to go have lunch with this friend because I love them dearly, but I'm certainly not going to go have lunch with somebody that I don't. And, you know, it's really like this. You start operating at this different level, the more you realize your actual worth. Once this becomes the issue where you literally don't have enough time in the day for your passion, you know? So this is just the end of this is the point of the evolution I'm at right now, where it's like everything I do, I have to just completely love it. But for a couple years there, as I was building towards this, I was doing a lot of things maybe I didn't love to do. You know, I love teaching oil classes, but I didn't love it the weeks that I was teaching 4 or 5 times a week. But I knew that's what my vision needed of me at that time. I hope that makes sense. We know it's
Can I speak to that for a quick second?
Yeah, I'd love you to.
Okay, so I feel like it's really interesting what you're talking about, because you had this month that was really challenging for you. And so you go through that and at the end of it, you have some space and time to think about, why was that challenging and what's not working and what needs to change. And you trickle that to your leaders. And the consequence of you doing that is that Susan reached out to me and said, hey, let's get together. And so we did that. And she, you know, brings that up, not in any big way, but just saying, yeah, it's something I've been thinking about. Like the fact that we have all these systems, but maybe that's not the best way to be mentoring people. And so that gets me thinking. And so then I start thinking about, well, what are my systems and what do people need? And so the interesting thing with doing that is that I feel like there's the lesson there is that sometimes we need to go through those challenging, rocky times and those rocky experiences, and you'll come out on the other side and you're gaining wisdom from it. And that's going to trickle down into your team, and it's going to create a better team and a better culture, and it'll shift and evolve, as you said, but that it'll ultimately be a good thing. And so maybe just trying to reframe some of the really challenging times that we'll all go through as knowing that there will be a lesson at the other end of it and someone's going to benefit from it.
Oh, that's great to hear, Kate. And I always come back to, again, that word evolve. Like, if we're not evolving with what our business is telling us and what our schedules are telling us, then we stop growing. And we know when things aren't working. We all do. We know, you know, when those commitments we've made just don't make sense anymore. And who's telling us we have to keep them? I guess that's the bottom line. You know, as entrepreneurs, which you all are here, there's nobody telling you what this needs to look like. So the last slide I wanted to finish off on was start fresh. For the month of December, we're just coming up on a new month and a new year. Print off a blank calendar and look at it through the eyes of 0 commitments. So if you're working another job, let's say, that probably needs to be on there first, right? You have a commitment right now that you can't wish away. Or maybe you don't want to wish away. Maybe you love having that other job, and that's great. So you want to first put on, like, what are your actual commitments that cannot be changed? And then you start fresh and you think, okay, what are the 1 to 3 commitments I've made to myself to increase my life force on a daily basis? And you schedule those in. And the thing is, if you know you're somebody who loves to be really flexible in the day, like if you get a text message from a friend and she asks you to meet at Starbucks, if you want to be that person, then only commit to 1. Just commit to 1 thing you want to do for yourself every day. I'm on the other end of that scale. I have several things I know I need to do every day to operate at the level I want to. And so I do not answer text messages the day they come in. My friends know, like, I won't be able to meet last minute for dinner. You know, everything for me is scheduled. It's just the way I operate. So think about who you are, what you're looking to get out of a day. And then think about the same thing with your business. So what is so cool about this is when you have your self-care dialed in, even if it's just one thing, you're going to go into your priorities for your business with a completely different energy. And I know you know what I mean here. Sometimes you have skipped your self-care and you've just gone into your business and you actually aren't really efficient. You're not operating at the level you'd like to. You're not coming from a place of love. Perhaps you're coming from fear. There's a lot of these low vibe things that happen. So what's interesting is when you have your self-care pinned down, the actions you take in your business will be more with ease, and you'll execute in a different way. And then the last thing you think about on a daily basis when you look at a fresh calendar is, what are the 1 to 3 things that need to happen daily to take care of those that you love? And if you're single and you don't have a family or a partner, maybe this is to your team or your business. Maybe this is both. Maybe it's a commitment you want to make to your team, one thing a day that you want to do to add value to them. And then you think of your family, like for me, non-negotiables are, I want to be here for dinner every night with my kids. I want to make them dinner at home, and I want to be here when they go to bed. And so that means I don't say yes to a lot of things that get in the way of that. In red text on the bottom, I want to finish here. The key thing to making all of this work is you cannot layer more things onto this list. So this comes back to like what Kate and I were chatting about with the workouts. You have to be prepared to just let things go, to commit to what your top priorities are. And play and rest is equally important. So when you have a space in your calendar, if you've, had that daily workout and you've done 2 to 3 things for your business that day, then enjoy the rest of the day. Don't feel like you have to take more on. Don't feel like you need to write a blog post and a newsletter and create a new fancy class. Do that tomorrow. Make that one of your 3 things tomorrow and enjoy that empty space in your calendar. It's a tough one, I know, but with practice, you'll be able to just really go with that flow, and you'll realize the real growth happens when you rest. There's actual science behind this. We know this with our body. When you work out really hard, Marissa, you get stronger on the day off. Okay, so this little peanut woke up. So I'm gonna stop the screen share. Do you guys have any thoughts before we hop off tonight? Come back to the room here. Oh, Emmy, you look a little grouchy. You look grouchy right now? Say hi to all the ladies.
I woke up an hour later too.
I know. Oh, okay.
Ange, thank you so much. As always, I just feel like my head is going. And I don't have anything at all to add. It was perfect.
What I want to say, just to grab this all in a nutshell, it's not about self-care. But it's not about self-care. Actually, the issue is deeper for each of us, and it's individual. And I hope that even just one of the things I went through tonight struck you yes, that's me. That's why I'm not showing up for myself in the way that I want. And we all have them. We all have them. It doesn't matter who you look at that you think has everything perfect and dialed in. Every person that is successful and is in growth is prepared to evolve when needed. So be that person. Look at what's working and what's not, and be prepared to change things because you can. Nobody's telling you can't, okay? You have my permission to change everything.
I feel like this is next level self-care, because we see so much about self-care that's have a bath, wash your face, have a tea, which is important. It is important. But if we're growing next level leaders, then we need to dive into next level self-care and what it truly means. And so that I feel like that's completely what it is. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Right. Did we all grab that tonight?
Yes.
Awesome.
I just want to say for you guys really, really quick. So most weeks we've been doing just a post, something more like sharing information But I'm going to do something different this week, and there'll be prizes. So that's always a good thing. Okay. So it's going to be more of an action week, and but looking for feedback and your comments too, because you can't get a prize unless you comment. So that's how it's going to work. All right. Ooh. You can play too, Angie, if you want. But you have to donate your prize to somebody else.
I'd like to donate some prizes. How can I do that?
I'll let you know.
Okay,
I'll think about it. That would be great.
So, okay, fun. You guys are fun. How many in the group how many are still active from the initial group?
You know what? We had about 112 or 15 join the group, and we've had between 15 and 30 on the calls. And then we have, I don't know, like I don't keep track or count, but there's some who are very, very engaged. And then I think there are others who are definitely engaged, but not like as active on the page commenting in the group, but are definitely getting a lot out of it. So I would say like probably up to 30 who are really, really taking a lot from it.
It's awesome. It's great engagement. You guys are an awesome group. I know most of you. You're you guys just buckle up. Seriously. There's nowhere you can't go with this.
I know, it's so exciting. I love it. And I love like that I had no idea where this was going to go, and it's just turned into such a good thing. Yeah. And the cross line, I love that too. So many different perspectives.
Right on. All right. Good night, you guys.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Good night, Emerson.
Good night, Emerson.